You are listening to The Michael Lodge Show. Wealth, business, and taxes. Oh, yeah, and some politics. Let's get started.
Morning, this is Mike Lodge. I hope that every single one of you went out and had a great weekend. Get a little bit of relaxation in, watch some favorite movies, spend time with your Valentines, if you had a Valentine's. I hope that every single weekend that you spend with yourself or with your family, that you make it a quality time, because it's so important. I tell you, just taking that little bit a break makes you feel revived. That's why I love weekends. I love it because all through the week I work hard, and then when it comes time for the weekend, it's my rest and everything. Now, I did something special for myself this weekend. Since I have no Valentine's, do you feel sorry for me? Probably not. I posted a picture this weekend. I said, you know those great big heart boxes filled with flowers? You see them in almost every drugstore. Big, huge boxes filled with chocolate. I said I didn't get one, but they're on sale today. So Monday, if you feel sorry for yourself not getting your chocolates, they're on sale today at most drugstores. So go out and get it. But I did something special for myself. I went out and bought a bike, and I'm planning something. I have a bucket list that I want to do. And so I went out and bought myself a what is called a cruiser. Now, I didn't realize that these bikes were so big. I mean, these are big bikes. I'm used to, the road bikes that you go really fast on, and so I bought this cruiser because I thought I need to build up my leg strength. And so I bought this thing. I did not realize they were so tall. My seat was So what happened is I bought the bike, but I couldn't get it into my car. So I had to ride it all the way home. That's 5 miles away. But I had to ride it, and my feet barely touched the pedals. And so every time that I would have to try and stop, I would first have to balance onto the pedals and then stop the bike, because it doesn't have those things on the side, the brake handles on the side. I literally have to stop it with my feet. So I fell like twice. Thank God we have nice, soft green grass to fall on. But because every time I would try to stop, it was very difficult to stop it, get off, because the bike is so high, because you'd have to lean over on one side and put your leg over. But the bike seat was so high that every time I would catch my foot on that bike seat. So yesterday I spent time lowering the bike seat and trying to get it into a situation where I can drive without falling. Do you know how? Now, this is what's really bad, okay? I was driving on a street and there was people there. So I fell over, right? And I got up, but not one single person stopped to help this old man. So I've learned that if I'm riding my bicycle, I'm on my own. So anyway, so I bought the bicycle, and this is my goal in 9 months. I want to build up my leg strength because I want to go to Tuscany, Italy, and I want to do a bike trip through Tuscany. And so I'm building up my legs, building up my back strength and everything, just trying to get ready. Plus I got to lose a few pounds, and I think in 9 months I can do that. But that's my goal. That's my bucket list for 9 months from now. So help me out. If you see a guy falling off his bike, that's probably me. I've gotten really good at it. I now know how to land without getting hurt. So, hey, I'm on a roll. So, anyway, that's my goal. 9 months from now, Tuscany, Italy, here I come, going through the back roads of Tuscany and looking at the wineries and the villas and the chateaus and everything that's back there. That's my goal. just to get away. But first, you guys have got to get rid of this COVID. I'm counting on you guys to get rid of the COVID because government isn't doing it. Government doesn't know what they're doing, so we're on our own. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about what we saw over the last few days in this impeachment thing. Yeah, I'm going to talk about politics because it's just bothering me of what happened. We saw Congress, members of Congress who were leading the impeachment charge in the Senate. And these congressmen had prepared a case, right? Unfortunately, the case had no merit. The case was filled with fraud. You had members of Congress and their staff forging stuff onto evidence. Now, if that were to be in a court of law, if you had doctored or manufactured or otherwise even just altered it just slightly, which they did, they just listen, you might not think it's a big deal, but just altering evidence is a big deal. You think about what would happen to you if you knew that that document, that evidence that the prosecution was presenting against you, and you knew that it was doctored and altered, it was a fraud. Would you not fight for it? I would. Because it's unethical. It's very highly unethical. If an attorney were to do that in court and he was found out that he had altered or changed it in any little bit to try to win his case, he would probably be disbarred, held in contempt, and potentially prosecuted for a felony. Now, I think, to me, this is a big deal. Because I'm thinking, what would have happened to me if I was in court and the other side started to lie so deeply and start forging documents to present my guilt? Well, I'm sitting there not even guilty, but they're forging it to make it look like guilt. I always think about these old movies that you see where the police officer was involved in a shooting and he'd take a spare gun out of his car and plant it on the guy that was shot, or the guy that was dealing drugs or coke. I always think of those movies. And this is exactly what happened in Congress, where they forged these documents. Now, you might not think this is a big deal, but it is a big deal because it has to do with ethics. And ethics says that you either do what is right or you do what is wrong. And the members of Congress who were presenting the impeachment against Trump were wrong. Ethically wrong. Now, what should happen to them in Congress? They should be sanctioned. They should be brought before the Congress, and they should be prosecuted, and they should be kicked out as a member of Congress. But the problem is that Congress has no ethics, and that's the biggest problem that we have today, is that politics is a very highly unethical profession. Now, we know what should be done. You and I, we know that what they did was wrong, and we know that it was a crime. Falsifying evidence is a crime. So I'm calling on Congress today, the ethics committee there. You guys in ethics have got to do a better job at policing members of Congress. The individuals on that congressional group of people that were presenting the crime against the president, and they falsified evidence, every single one of them should be dismissed from the United States Congress. They should not be serving there. They stood before the American people and tried to present a lie. Falsified evidence. It's a fraud. It's a crime. So if you want to show the American people just how ethical that you are, and that you truly do care about our democracy and the rule of law, these individuals on that prosecution group of people, whatever you want to call them, need to be gone. They need to be sent out of the United States in shame. Because what they did is they showed that Congress is no longer ethical. You can no longer believe them. You can no longer trust them. You can no longer believe one single word that they say because they doctored evidence. I don't care how small it may be. They may have put just a period in the wrong spot, which would have meant a whole big deal about what somebody had said in evidence. I don't care if it's just a small dot. I don't care what it is that they doctored. That is illegal and they need to be prosecuted. And the Department of Justice should be looking at this very closely. So I'm calling upon the Department of Justice and I'm calling upon the United States Congress to police your own people from fraud. When they've done something this illegal, they need to go. And for those states where those Congress people are representing, they need to ask that individual, go. I mean, where in the world do we have a Congress that has become so unethically fit that they are willing to destroy a person, any person really, not just Trump, but any person, based upon falsified evidence? So I'm really wondering, in a lot of these congressional hearings that we see, how much of that stuff is really true and how much of it is fraud. Because now we can't trust them in anything that they do. The bills that they're presenting, the 1 trillion dollar bill that they're trying to get all that money for COVID, how much of that bill is actually true that's going to help COVID, and how much of it is false and fraud and going other places? That is the question that we need to be asking and demanding the answer for. Because everything that comes out of Congress now should be looked at under suspicion because of the fraudulent activity that we saw over the last 2 and 3 days. The impeachment hearing was an eye-opener of fraud, of corruption, unethical behavior. If any of those people were attorneys that were presenting that case, they should be disbarred by their state. That's just what I'm talking about when I'm saying hold these individuals accountable for their acts, their action, their words, their falsified evidence. Hold them accountable. So all of you who were sitting there watching that, did you not? I'm just thankful that people stood up and objected. And one senator even had one piece of evidence pulled because it was wrong. It was false. Good for that senator. If Congress doesn't do something to police themselves, if Nancy Pelosi continues to push fraudulent acts and support fraudulent acts, Adam Schiff said everyone on that prosecution team out of Congress did a highly good job. No, they didn't. They lost. Nancy Pelosi is mad this morning because they lost again, the second time, based on fraudulent evidence, a lie. Everything built upon a lie. I don't care if it's Trump. I just leave the Trump name off of it. I don't care. We're talking about a case where they were trying to destroy an individual, trying to prosecute him, trying to impeach him, and they failed at it because why? Because they had fraudulent evidence. And then they came back and they said, okay, we want to call witnesses. And within 2 hours, they said, no, we can't call witnesses. And I'll tell you why they couldn't call witnesses, because none of them were good enough to be a witness. It's a sad situation when we see this type of unethical activity happening in Congress, who are supposed to be leaders within our nation. But here we see them manipulating a case just to try to destroy an individual. listen, when you do this, if we continue to see this coming out of Congress, the laws that they vote in mean nothing because they have their own law, their own way of trying to do something to destroy somebody. And they will use any method that comes. I mean, can you believe this? That you would literally see somebody trying to manipulate evidence. I'm sorry, but I don't accept it. These members of Congress, or that prosecution team from Congress, needs to be removed from Congress. We can no longer accept the issue that members of Congress and their teams can build a case to remove a president based on fraudulent evidence. And once again, the Democrats lost an impeachment 2 times. Can you imagine Nancy Pelosi pushing this impeachment dumbness on the American people and then approving fraudulent acts by her own members of Congress? So we sit here as Americans and we watch this happening. And we're looking at these criminals out on the street saying, well, goodness, you know what? If Congress can do it, I can do it. No one's going to come after me anymore because there's no rule of law. We have a problem there. And if Americans don't wake up and they don't take action and start demanding that Congress act by their voice, not by their political party voice, but by their own voice that voted these people in, if these members of Congress do not start listening to the American people, then we have no representation. We have taxation, but no representation. Remember that phrase? Yeah, that's why this country was founded, based upon taxation without representation. That's why we had a revolt against England, because we wanted to be independent. But the problem is now is that we're right back to the same spot that we were when we came to this United States, where we have the power, the elite people who can lie, they can forge, they can do corrupt activity in Congress, and no one takes them down. No one gets into trouble. So listen, members of Congress, we're watching you very closely. If you do not police your own, then expect to lose a whole bunch of seats, Democrats, when it comes time in 2022 for us to vote again, because we're tired of this nonsense. The American people are going to go out there and they're going to campaign against you like hell. You won't even know what hit you, because you failed. You failed twice to impeach a president, because each and every single time you base the impeachment on lies, forged documents, criminal activity that you yourselves did. So that's it for today. I'm calling on Congress today to police your own Congress. Remove these individuals from Congress, because it's time that we begin cleaning up the House. Congress needs to be cleaned up. And if you don't start doing it yourselves, the American people will do it. Because now it's time to remove unethical individuals from Congress. So tomorrow we're going to talk about business again. We're going to get back to the business side, because we've got some things to talk about, especially when it has to do with taxation and accounting and management and everything else. We need to start talking about that again, because we're in the beginning of the year and we need to start doing things to make our business year a good year. And we can do some things that can help our companies grow, help our little small businesses out of our homes grow. We can do a lot of different things. So we're going to talk about that over the next few weeks because it needs to be talked about. And you and I have got to do much better planning because we've got a government out of control. So you and I are going to have to do things to make sure that our businesses, our families, our financial situations stronger. And we're going to do that. Listen, if you would like to send me a question or a comment, if you have a business question on business or on mediation, send me a text at 818-252-5682. Again, that's 818-252-5682. If it's a big, long one, a big, long question, send an email to info, at lodge-co.com. Go to my website if you want to know what I do in my day job, which is www.lodge-co.com. If you like the content that I'm producing, hey, support me at www.buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge. I'll say that again, okay? Buymeacoffee/ I'm sorry. See, I just goofed up again. It's buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge. No wonder no one's supporting me. I can't even say it right. Listen, I do these things at early in the morning. So my mouth sometimes is not fully awake, okay? My brain is, well, kinda. And so I do these podcasts early in the morning. And then I begin my work day. And that is life for me. That's my daily schedule. I get up, I take the dogs out, I sit down, I meditate, I write in my journal, I pray, and have my cup of coffee, and then I do my podcast, and then I get to work. And I've got a whole bunch of work on my desk this morning. So all of you out there sending me emails, hey, what's happening with this? I'm doing it today, okay? I'm doing it today. This is Mike Lodge. Everybody go out and have a great, great Monday. Do great things. Help someone out. Talk with you soon. Bye-bye. This podcast is produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content. Hi, this is Mike Lodge of The Michael Lodge Show. Join me on iHeartRadio and other podcast stations as we talk about wealth, business, and taxes. Oh, and some politics. Join me every day on the podcast that keeps focused on business.